ఈరోజు ఎవరు వస్తుందో కానీ టెన్షన్ తట్టుకోలేకపోతున్నా. నాకంత ఓపిక లేదు.
2 నిమిషాలు ఇవ్వు బావా, దొరసానిలా తయారు చేస్తాను.
Hi guys, what's up? Ian and Jess checking back in. Hope you guys are smiling, working towards your goals and dreams, and letting go of all the negativity. That clip you guys just saw, I just wanted people to know how Muhammad would have looked like if he was in front of Aisha, so people could put a little visuals to it to know the monster that he actually was. You know, it's insane too that the way Muhammad died, if we looked at it, like, it's insane, guys. Like, Muhammad literally got poisoned. Thank God he got poisoned, or else God knows what more atrocities he might have done. This even proves that he was never even a prophet of Allah, because he said that he cannot and will not die by the poison, as Allah will not let it happen. Where was the 1,000 angels and the 3,000 angels sent out to help Muhammad in his battles when he was dying by poison, right? Isn't that crazy? Check this chapter out. Quran, chapter 66, verse 4. Allah is confirming that he will protect Muhammad against his wives and plots against him. So his death proves he was a false prophet and Allah isn't real. Where was Jibril when Muhammad was being plotted against? His wives knew damn well that there was a plot to kill him. And for all the females out there, I am sorry that we got to show you this clip, but check this clip out really quickly.
Hijab will do the Hijab will do the nikah.
I don't even think
I'm setting up the Zoom call right now. You know?
I don't even think women would find Islam without a man anyway. I think they would only do it really for a man. I don't think that women can have a connection to God without a man explaining it to her. I don't.
Well, yeah, the man who's the Prophet Muhammad explaining it to.
Yeah, like would a woman really pick up the Quran and take her shahada on her own ever? That's
unless she's been through some traumatic experiences.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Like generally, yeah, they can. Like, what do you mean? Like, can a woman come to Islam without a man? Do you mean?
Well, according to the statistics, more women are coming to Islam than men. I don't know if you know that.
Really.
For every man, there's 4 women.
But what you're saying, what you're saying is right, because that's the reason why a Muslim woman cannot marry a Christian or a Jew or Hindu. But we are allowed to marry a Christian or a Jew
because they're going to become Muslim.
Exactly, because we have the influence. A woman can be easily influenced.
But guys, even these women that are taking their shahadas, they're still being led by sheikhs. They're still being led by the men who are explaining it to them. They're never going to find.
You see this nonsense and shameful response that these 4 stooges are saying? Islamic women, if you have any decency and self-respect for yourself, please let go of this cult that has no respect for love and has no respect for women. You see these clowns telling you that women cannot get to God themselves because they need a man. Because in the Quran it tells you that a woman is less than a man and that a man is more intelligent than a woman. How disgraceful and shameful that is. Don't be like this girl right here in the comment section, who has no shame and has been subdued by her masters into thinking that she's nothing. Like, literally free yourself, guys. You all matter and you're important, and should never let a religious cult created by an Islamic warlord who was nothing more than a rapist, pedophile, and a monster to rule your life and create these false promises of heaven and hell and have you enslaved and indoctrinated by a whole bunch of nonsense. Check this Quran verse out. Islamic heaven is basically for men and not women. The Islamic heaven is basically a brothel. Like, can you imagine what type of man created this? Like, for crying out loud, Muhammad had 12 wives. He had no problem basically sleeping and raping a 6-year-old. At the end of the day, do you think they honor women? You're just a commodity. You're just a tool. Like, how can you have any shame and follow this religion? Have respect for yourself. You guys matter. I love my wife more than anything. I couldn't even believe this type of stuff was in the religion that we were following. At the end of the day, we just want you to know, these Dawa guys, they're selling Islam. They're selling donations. Stop buying it. They're selling you fears. You don't matter. This is so shameful that you could have your daughters or sisters or wife watching these people. They're saying such disgraceful things and dehumanizing women, and they have no shame, and they can say this publicly. And it's like, wow. And the girl in the comments, she's like, so what if there's houris waiting and all these virgin, pure maidens waiting for heaven? Like, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, she just has a narrative of why it's okay because she's having cognitive dissonance. But nonetheless, shout out to everybody. Hope you can free yourself. Women, get away from this. Run from this. I love and respect my wife more than anything to ever believe in such nonsense. All I ever want after this life is her. And these Islamic men, they're worried about some sort of 72 virgins and these houris and perfect maidens. Have some respect for yourself. It's so shameful. I just had to bring it up. When I saw this today, I was like, oh my God, they're telling it to you. They're telling you what they see you and how they see you less than a human. They see you less than an average human being. And women are so intelligent. Women are so intelligent. It's insane to me. But anyways, guys, let's get into today's topic. So today's topic of the day is examining Muhammad's scribe, Zayed, and the earliest form of the Quran. The notion today is that many people globally have memorized the full Quran, even children. So therefore the Quran has been preserved through memorization. This is the thing that we hear all the time. Oh, everyone remember the Quran today. Even children that are 6, 10 years old, 9 years old can memorize the Quran. So we don't need any written documents because the oral transmission is preserved, because the proof is that we have children and people today memorizing it. But here, guys, the biggest flaw with this claim is that in the beginning of Muhammad's revelation, there was never a full book compiled for the companions and common folk to read. The problem with this is that there would be no teacher to assist in the learning process of letting the content resonate in their mind. Therefore, it was impossible for anyone to remember the whole text as the present day students of Islamic schools would. So they're comparing today to 1400 years ago when there was nothing for people to study and memorize, and there were not one single teacher to make sure that people were pronouncing and getting the content correct. The verses Muhammad claimed came to him would be revealed in a disorganized manner, making it even harder to comprehend what Allah is saying. The only time the verses would make slight sense is when coincidentally a verse appeared to Muhammad about a situation that made him seem weak, annoyed, or to satisfy his lust. For example, guys, literally, this bastard, this no shame having garbage that went out the most ugliest way, literally had lust for his adopted son's wife. And he literally invented a surah of why Allah says that she's permissible for him. So he basically forces indirectly his adopted son to divorce his wife, and then a surah comes down justifying what Allah says that she is for him, that their marriage is halal under Allah's rule. Like, this Quran verse is so crazy. Like, his son, his adopted son Zayd, can you imagine? He got him killed in battle. Like, guys, this shit is crazy. Like, think about this for a second. After he marries Zainab, right? He has his feast right here. can literally see this dude who's so annoyed that no one would leave his house, and they were sitting there chatting and eating and drinking, and he's like, oh my God, and he's pacing back and forth, and a verse comes down about why you shouldn't stay inside of the prophet's house and how it annoys him, and you shouldn't overstay your stay, and don't... What? How does this even make any sense? This is supposed to be the eternal book. This is more like Muhammad making shit up as it goes. And even this surah right here, guys. Chapter 8, verse 24. Muhammad didn't like being ignored, so he made up a verse to make sure people obey him. Like, this dude is insane, guys. But anyways, let's get back to the topic at hand. Now, Islamic history has told us that Muhammad was illiterate. Now, follow me here, guys. The story and the tale, the mantra is that Muhammad was illiterate. So how could he write anything? Okay. We can now infer that Muhammad had a troubled mind because you're telling us he's illiterate. What people forget and they fail to realize, even people who go to college, even people who are educated, they fail to grasp this part. They can study all these complex things, but they fail to grasp this simple part. People who are illiterate often have trouble with pronunciations, as they do not have the knowledge needed to discern the syllables in a word. Therefore, they will often pronounce a word as they hear it. They often lack the vocabulary required to explain their thinking. So they also have the difficulty with perception of time and space. So we really don't know what Allah was telling Muhammad or what the voices Muhammad was hearing in his head was telling him. If we pay attention to this hadith right here, guys, Aisha tells us that Muhammad heard a man reciting the Quran in the mosque and he reminded him of XYZ verse. The next hadith here tells us that Muhammad became irritated and furious that the companions and people were talking behind his back, that he is forgetting verses and he's basically losing his mind. Guys, then out of nowhere Allah gives a rebuttal that shows that he doesn't forget anything, but Allah wills it. The Quran chapter 2 verse 106. Allah admits, or whoever was interfering with the writing of the Quran, that verses that are forgotten will be replaced with a better one. So the writer is admitting that he is forgetting things and that he will substitute an equivalent message throughout the Quran. Allah is all-knowing, but according to this hadith, Allah didn't remember disabled people exist, or should we say Muhammad didn't remember disabled people exist. So he made this verse up, which appears in the Quran chapter 4 verse 95. Guys, this guy is illiterate. He was a schizophrenic. He was a maniac. He got choked by a spirit, he said. He ran away crying. He doesn't know what's going on. We don't even know what he's saying. And people have all of this trust. Now, we already noted in a previous video that the Quran of today, we are told, that is from the time of Uthman in the year 650 to 652. So as we see in the hadith above, Uthman made copies of Hafsa's Quran and sent those copies to the main cities. Now let's see what's wrong with this, guys. In this hadith, Uthman burns all the different Qurans and manuscripts and circulate this new one. Now we have present day manuscripts which don't match with the current day Qurans, and if he said he burnt everything, why is there over 26 Qurans today and contradicting manuscripts? People knew this maniac Uthman was up to no good, so they hid manuscripts inside secret cabinets. The second issue is that Hafsa's Quran comes from her dad Umar, which is a 20-year-old document that Zayd ibn Thabit had compiled with 3 other gentlemen. The other 3 gentlemen and the rest of the group who cross-checked the work doesn't matter. as Zayed is the one who the mission was sent to and was Muhammad's right-hand scribe. This guy admitted he didn't remember the Quran by agreeing to go search for it, and no one knew the Quran by heart because they forced him to find it versus them asking the companions or his wife or wives to write down a uniform version. No one remembered 114 surahs, 6,236 verses. He found 50% of the Quran from bones, parchment, leaves, stones, palm stalks, etc. Now, a majority of the people who memorized verses of the Quran were dying, so they feared the Quran would be lost in the Battle of Yamama. It is worth to note that whoever died, we will never know if they knew a verse that was missing. We can assume that with a high probability, the Quran is still missing chapters and verses, because if no one memorized the whole thing at the time, they could never cross-check it, regardless of how many people agree with one another, because half of these people couldn't even read or write, let alone try to verify what was the divine inspiration. Now, the ultimate crack in this Islamic narrative, the super blow, is that when Hafsa died, her version of the manuscript or the original Quran that predated the Uthmanic Quran has been deliberately destroyed. Therefore, we don't have the most important document in Islamic history to verify if what was written matches exactly to the Quran Uthman made. Why did they destroy this document if what they were circulating wasn't going to be changed? Why don't we have one Quran in our possession today with 114 surahs, 6,236 verses between the date of 632 and 700 to verify the truthfulness that we have the Uthmanic Quran? We don't have a copy of the copy of the copy of the copy that he sent out to the 5 cities. Because we are missing the diacritical marks from the Uthmanic Quran that didn't exist in the time, the future writers who would make copies can interpret and pronounce the words however they please. That makes the most sense. That's why the manuscripts we have show insertions, eraser marks, writings over the words that are already in place, and tape marks. Now, before Muhammad's death, some hadiths tell us he banned muta, which is temporary marriage. However, if we see here and some other places in the Quran, chapter 4, verse 24, Allah is allowing muta, which is halal prostitution. The word choice to emphasize this exchange of service is dowry and wealth. You basically can prostitute women under the disguise of marriage as long as you guys agree to a predefined cash amount. Now, this verse amplifies the notion that whoever interfered with the Quran wanted this verse to stay because they wanted to use the Quran to validate their sexual monstrosities. In conclusion, guys, this hadith here about Waraqa, the cousin of Khadijah, who was Muhammad's first wife, played a major role in all of this. Waraqa was a Christian who wrote the Gospels and biblical scriptures in abundance. So Muhammad was around 25 when he married Khadijah, and he would get his first revelation at the age 40. So in 15 years, he would have made many visits to Waraqa to learn many biblical scriptures. Doesn't matter if it was written in a different language, he would read it to him. Muhammad would absorb a lot of knowledge from his teachings. He would be the one to implant the idea in his head that he was a prophet, as Muhammad thought it was a jinn or a demonic spirit who first came to him. We will elaborate more on some of these things in the next video. But guys, as we can see here today, there's many holes and contradictions in the rise of Islam, and the answers Muslims give us don't add up with the evidence. And as we can see, the moral example that people today hold of him being the greatest person to ever live or the greatest prophet, it's just disgusting and ridiculous, guys, that they can look up to a man like this and the things that he has done. And as we can see, there's so much contradictions with the versions of Muhammad that we're looking at and the things that they're saying. And I hate the recycled word, which is oh, these type of arguments have been debunked, or these type of arguments are lies, and these hadiths are weak, because at the end of the day, guys, they are just in denial. Because if you are saying these hadiths are weak, first off, Al-Bukhari would never have put these hadiths into the collection. He would have never made a book with collections if they weren't trusted. So it's just nonsense. They're just trying to do gymnastics with the wordplay. And furthermore, a lot of things about Islamic culture and the way you're supposed to do Islamic practices under the Sharia law guidance comes from the hadiths. So one minute they can accept this, the next minute they can reject that, and they don't want to use the same logic with the Quran. They don't want to investigate it, because at the end of the day, it's the final blow to their whole religious ideology. And the cracks and holes that we see countless times just tell us Muhammad is the one that created this. And Muhammad was a psychopath, and he's a schizophrenic maniac who literally created things. He didn't remember the Quran. He forgot verses. Verses were lost. They were searching till the end of time to try to find as much as they could to put it together. And Zayed, you know, whoever was with him and trying to cross-check him and all these people, just remember, guys, these guys were substituting things, and as we've seen already in the evidence, so we don't know what to trust. But anyways, thank you guys for watching today's video. Hope it was entertaining and hope you learned something.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.